Okay, so we're sitting here. It's a lunch break at the Influencer10 conference, and we had the pleasure of seeing this gentleman today on a panel, and it was a feisty panel. So I'm actually going to ask you to introduce the panel that you were on, and your name and your company and why you're an influencer.
Great. I'm Brandon Evans, and I'm CEO of Crowdtap. And I think even more so than myself being an influencer, I would say I study influence in general and figure out ways that everyday consumers can be influential. So I think that's really what Crowdtap's about, is kind of creating a community where insightful and influential people can interact with brands and can be a part of what they're doing, and where brands can obviously reach out to them. So I don't know that I necessarily refer to myself as much as influencer as I do to the work that I do, and what I've been doing for the last 5 years is really understanding how influence happens, not just from top down, but also from the bottom up.
That would be great to hear. Influence happens. That's it. But you said something that's interesting. You've been doing this for 5 years, right? That's a long time. Let me ask you, why does it matter? Why does it matter if we find influencers or not, or if they're engaging with brands, and why is it so important to be able to even quantify that?
I think it matters more and more now. From a brand perspective, because these people have voices now, and I think that's why brands are starting to pay attention. Why there's a business around this is because communications keep getting going from this mass level and getting cut down more and more to where everyday people and quasi celebrities and all these different people play a lot bigger role than they used to. So I think the internet and social technology has given so much. So much firepower to everyday people that it's now important to really understand how do you create movements, how do you involve people in your brand, and how do you make your brand one that's perceived to be, and not just perceived to be, but also just understands the consumer you're going after and is really close knit with them.
That's a great point. So brands then are actually becoming much more savvy about doing this. Well, I say much more, but all right, that's
they're publicly out there.
Well, but they're learning, they're trying. So let me ask you a question. What's the difference then between 5 years ago, finding an influencer and tapping into that culture, and how they're perceived versus today? What kind of transition have you seen in that time that's giving you kind of hope going forward in this?
The transition's been, huge, because you really went from nothing to something in the last 5 years. 5 years ago there wasn't Facebook. So we were actually doing similar type work before Facebook, and even starting out as in a youth marketing agency, and where we were back then, we were actually using Facebook before marketers were really on it, because we were working with college students and people before they opened it up on how they can market and how they can use this tool. So that's obviously developed to the point where everyone's on Facebook. You have Twitter, you have obviously YouTube, you have all these platforms, and I think watching kind of people as the new generation comes up every 5 years, it's a different audience that's in kind of that core area of where marketers are targeting and where brands are, and those people are growing up with this technology, and it's expected from them to talk to brands. It's expected to them, to be involved, and they have just very different expectations than a consumer did.
Wow. So how do you then, when brands come to you, what your company does, brands come to you and they say, we're looking for this type of influencer or that type of person, that's what they do, right? So do you allow them to, can they define the influencer themselves, or do you help them to define influencers for their market and then go after those influencers and find them?
Yeah. So actually Crowdtap is a platform. Okay. So we actually work with other agencies, PR agencies, ad agencies, social media, who actually can leverage our platform and our people. And basically what we do is we really provide a lot of ways for brands to target, to understand, there's certain demographics that they're looking for, certain types of people, and then we also have tons of data and reputation that people build up over time, so you can actually see the real actions of what they do. So everyone has some influence, whether it's just over your mom or over 100 friends. We all have some influence, so it's really kind of an earn-up model where consumers come in, we give them opportunities to do a lot of different things, and we really understand their behaviors, and then it really helps marketers pick and choose kind of the types of people that they're looking to reach out to.
Right. Okay, so then what? Looking forward then, since you've been there since the beginning, you were on Facebook when it was just a little wee book. Okay. Right. what do you? You are influential. You are an influencer. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
So where do you see influencers or the influencer culture going? Let's say in 2 years, if this conference were in 2 years, I mean, do you see it being more embedded in social media, or is everyone going to have their 15 minutes? Was Andy Wall right?
I would say where I see it going is, I'm not sure people will even use this term social media in 5 years. I mean, I think it's really just going to be integrated into our lives, and it's part of everything. I mean, it's going to be in the TVs. It's going to
air.
Be, yeah, it's going to be, it will be everywhere the way that a cell phone or, email is today. And it'll just be embedded into the ways we interact with the world and with other people. So, I think that's where it's going, and I think, where we're still at the very early stages, and I think there's some smart companies and smart brands trying to figure it out, but the key is really just to get involved now, because there's so much you learn, and it takes years to scale and roll out these types of programs, and really understand who your consumers are, what resonates with them. Building movements takes time, so I think the marketing world has always been used to every quarter, let's shake up our message, get it back out there, and drive results. But these are things you really have to invest in over time and over years, and really have the foresight to really see things through. And I think it's a shift in marketers. But I think as more and more millennials get into kind of become leaders, and I think they get it, and that's the audience that we've really had close interactions with. And I think those changes, you see it in the employees that we have at our company, and the people coming up, it's ingrained in what they do.
Well, you'll definitely be around in 5 years, so that much I know.
I hope so.
Right? So yeah, you will be. And what's your website?
It's crowdtap.com.
Crowdtap.com. And your Twitter?
Is Brandon E.
Brandon E. I like that. Okay, so
or Brand One.
Or Brand One. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us for the conference. You were amazing. Loved your panel, and we'll keep in touch with Crowdtap.
Yeah, it's been great. Looking forward to next year.
Awesome.
Thanks.